So, good evening, everyone. You're all sitting comfortably. So we're going to start for a few weeks, look at good leadership. And you might wonder, well, why should one learn about leadership? What's the point in learning about leadership? Well, what are we hoping to achieve through this course? Well, one is to understand the nature and practice of good leadership, and so that one can become oneself a better leader, a better colleague, or a better subordinate. If we're working in a business or in any kind of institution, we always find we're either a leader, or we're a colleague, or a subordinate. And if we can understand leadership better, it means we can understand how to function better, whichever of these three different positions that we have. So we're going to be looking at some of the functions of leadership and what do leaders do. Also through this, then it'll help you to recognize these functions and to be able to spot them, what's going on, to be able to analyze leadership yourself, to see the good side, the mistakes a person might be making because they're not fulfilling that function, and also hopefully to learn how to apply these functions yourself. The first question is then, what is leadership? Anybody?
The ability to lead.
The ability to lead, okay.
Setting a course that others can go with you.
Okay, setting a course that others can go with you, all right. Anything else?
It's a position where you can learn from the others to grow and to change. Yeah.
It's a position.
To be better and to lead others, of course.
Okay. Position where you can help others to grow. Yeah. Lead others. Okay. Anything else?
Making decisions.
That's one of the functions. The leaders find they have to make decisions and choices. Yeah.
Also, you train others as well.
Hmm?
You train others.
Yes, that's a very important part of it, is to train other people to be able to develop their own abilities so they can also become leaders. Anything else? Any other ideas? Okay. Any other ideas? Okay, so.
About giving directions.
Pardon?
Giving directions.
Yeah, part of it, of course, is giving direction, yes. Okay, this is what Xenophon said. So he was the first person, he was a Greek philosopher, and he was an historian. He's one of the very first people to write an explanation of what leadership is. He himself was a leader in the Greek army. And he said, leadership is the ability to inspire willing obedience in others. So do we normally willingly obey others? Sorry? Yes, no? So in that sense, it's the ability to be able to inspire others to willingly obey you and to follow you and to, yeah. So it's not just telling people what they should do, it's actually inspiring people so they actually want to do that because they've, yeah. Motivating people, that's right. So they're inspired to actually do what you ask them to do. There's another definition that John Harvey Jones, who was a director of CBI, I seem to remember for a long time. Leadership is about getting extraordinary performance out of ordinary people. So if you have a good leader, there may be just one group of people, and he can inspire them to do something extraordinary. Whereas another person, the same situation, it may be a complete failure. Whereas you change the person who's in charge, and the person who's a leader, he can get a very ordinary group of people to do something which is quite extraordinary, and to challenge them to go beyond their limitations, and to inspire them to do that themselves, willingly do that. So this is Dag Hammarskjöld. I can never pronounce it. Hammarskjöld. He was Secretary General of the United Nations sometime in the 60s, I think.
53 to 61, I believe.
Thank you. And he got his birthdays as well. So he said your position never gives you the right to command. It only imposes on you the duty of so living your life that others may receive your orders without being humiliated. So that's another way of looking at it. So one important thing here is the difference between a leader and a boss. So a leader is the idea that they're leading, which means they're out there in front. A boss is someone who just sits back and just gives orders and tells other people what to do. A leader, on the other hand, is out there showing people what to do through his own example, his or her own example. That's one of the big differences. So let's have a look at some other quotes before we start to look at it more systematically. This is Sun Myung Moon. The frontline leader should always work harder and better than other people. Then they will follow him. If you live that way yourself, then you will not have to tell your members to follow you. They'll want to follow you on their own. So again, it's because you're setting a good example. And then there's John Adair, who's someone whose theories of leadership, which I've drawn a lot upon. He said, you can be appointed a commander or a manager, but you're not a leader until your appointment is ratified in the hearts and minds of those who work under you. So you may have got the job, you may have been given the position, but actually you have to win the heart and you have to win the support of the people. In that case, then they're the ones who decide whether you're the leader or not. You don't say, I'm the leader. The people who are following you decide that you're the leader. So what are the different ways of looking at leadership? So there's three main approaches. One is the qualities approach, another is a situational approach, another which we'll be looking at in much more detail is the functional approach. But really they're all kind of related and they should all be interlinking. So what are the qualities then of a good leader? Anybody? What are the qualities of a good leader?
Should be able to listen.
Should be able to listen. So this is what Xenophon said. He said, it was said that this particular leader, it said that he had all the qualities of leadership which a man of his sort could have. And Sun Myung Moon again, one good quality in a leader is not enough. You have to be good at everything. So what sort of qualities does a leader need to have? One is to listen. What other kind of qualities are important in leadership? Be good in everything?
Unrealistic.
Is that unrealistic? Okay. So what kind of qualities do you look for in a leader?
Be the best.
Yeah, that person may be the best, yes.
Honestly.
Honesty, that's very important. Would you like to have a leader, or would you regard a person as a leader who wasn't honest with you? No. Any other qualities?
Motivated.
They have to be very motivated, yes. So if there's a person who's a leader of the team and he wasn't motivated or interested in the project, would you be motivated? No, very difficult, isn't it? Any other qualities?
Very positive.
Sorry?
Very positive.
Very positive, yes. Yeah, positive attitude.
To be able to have a vision.
Someone has a vision, yes. Very important. Any other qualities you can think of?
An ability to communicate well.
Communication is very important, yes. Because if you're leading a group, then you need to explain to them what it is they're going to be doing so they can understand clearly. If they can't understand clearly what they're supposed to do, then it just won't work. So anyway, there's certain drawbacks in this approach because actually when academics have drawn together the lists of all the different qualities that people have come up with, they find there's often very little overlap. There's no list of qualities that everybody regards as being definitive. And another problem with this kind of approach is it favors selection rather than training. Often the idea that some people are born leaders, some people are born enthusiastic or are born, very good at communicating. And this, as opposed to something that anybody can learn through training. But then how do you gain the necessary qualities? Some people say it's good for a leader to have a good sense of humour. How do you gain a good sense of humour?
Reading jokes every day.
Sorry?
Reading jokes every day.
You read, okay, so you read a book of jokes and you go and you memorize them and you just go around reciting them randomly. If a leader's supposed to have a vision and you don't have one, how do you get one? So it's difficult. How do you? Some of these qualities then, they're just personality traits. And is it possible to change your personality? Is it?
Not so good.
It's difficult, isn't it? You can try to change your personality, but really, at the end of the day, it's very hard, especially as you get older. And there are some people who've got these kind of qualities, but they're not necessarily effective leaders. Maybe a person who's incredibly enthusiastic and positive, but doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a good leader. Because he may not be a good communicator, or may not be a clear thinker, or whatever else. So it's not just having these qualities that's important. But anyway, this approach is useful because it shows that some of the necessary qualities that John Adair picks out and that people often would agree with, things like enthusiasm. It's very important for a leader to be enthusiastic. So enthusiasm means spirit-filled. So if a leader wasn't enthusiastic about the task or the project, would people be motivated and inspired to follow that person? No. If the leader's not enthusiastic about it, then it's very hard to, be motivated. Because one of the jobs of a leader is to motivate people so they willingly go along with what it is that you're doing. So if you're not enthusiastic, it's very hard. Also, another important quality is integrity. So the idea of honesty comes in. It's this, having integrity, being committed to values, committed to the truth, not lying, but being very straightforward, being very honest, very, very clear, and in that sense, being very, very transparent. So what you see is what you get. Not a person who pretends to be somebody that they're not, or tries to have various ulterior motivations for what they're doing, but has integrity, and being very authentic and having character. And one person said, integrity is the quality that makes people trust you. So a leader needs to be trusted because sometimes your life may be in that person's hands. If you're fighting in a war and you have, soldiers in little battalions or groups, you need to be able to trust the person who's your leader because that person, your life is in that person's hands. And in fact, everybody's life is in everybody else's hands in that kind of situation. And it's very important to be able to trust each other. But if you know your leader, if you can't trust your leader, then it makes it very problematic. So leaders then have to have that kind of quality that makes people trust them. Toughness. Why does a leader have to be tough?
Take criticism.
Yes, take criticism.
Get the best out of people. Doesn't just mean being nice and complimenting them. But
Not being nice all the time. So when you're leading, is everything always going to run smoothly to get to the task?
No.
What do you face? When if you start, you're here, and you want to get over there.
Hills and valleys and swamps and
All kinds of difficulties, and it's very easy to give up. And you get persecuted, may get criticized, you may go through all kinds of difficulties. So a leader in that sense has to be quite tough. When the going gets tough, the tough get going, as they say. You don't give up. So if you if you have a leader and you realize he's not really tough, and if there's a difficulty he's going to give up, is that going to work? No, you want a leader who's tough, but also one who's quite demanding. In other words, a leader has to challenge the people on his team to give their best and to even go beyond their limitations to be able to achieve things which they never thought they could achieve. So actually it's very important for a leader to be very demanding. So if you have a leader who's not demanding, who doesn't challenge you, doesn't push you, and just allows you to stay within your comfort zone, there's not that kind of sense of achievement because you don't feel you're progressing and developing. So there's also being demanding is also another important quality. So to be very resilient, not to give up, but also very challenging, to challenge goals and limitations. Demanding the best from people. Also, it's very important to be fair, not to have favourites, not to make judgments based upon one's own personal whim, but what is fair, what is good, what is just, what's for the best of the team. Not necessarily, oh, this is what I like. But it's very important then to be very fair, and also to be consistent. And that's one of the things that children value the most in teachers who are fair. They may be tough, they may be really strict, but the most important thing is they fair. Yes, or do they have favourites, or do they let some people off and not let other people off, etc., etc., etc. Fairness is also very important for, as a parent as well. Another thing is warmth and humanity. And you want someone you feel this person cares about you. Leaders should care about the people who they're responsible for. The sense of humanity, understanding their situation, the difficulties they're going through. And if you feel this person really cares and is genuinely interested in you as a person, then you feel like much more of a sense of loyalty and giving your best. So again, those are other important qualities. And also humility is very important. So if something goes wrong and the leader makes a mistake, then the leader should say, yeah, I got it wrong. It was my mistake. It's not...
Don't get too big for their boots.
Yeah, also, not getting too big for their boots, remaining humble, and, giving credit where credit is due. So again, sometimes, if something successful happens, and it's tempting for the leader to take all the credit for themselves, because they might want to get promoted or whatever else, but actually to say, well, actually, it wasn't me that did it, this person did this, and this person did this, and, to be very humble about sharing the praise, but taking the blame, and for if anything goes wrong, taking responsibility. So in that sense, that's another aspect of honesty, being humble. Okay, so that's the qualities approach. As I said, it's very good, but good to look at these kind of qualities which a leader should have, but also certain limitations in that approach as well. A situational approach, this is the idea that authority flows to one who knows. So, for example, if there's a shipwreck on an island, you might think, well, what do you need to do? You might need to build a house. So who should organize the building of a house?
Person with building experience.
Yeah, maybe the person who's a carpenter or has got some building experience, he would be expected to be the one who would do that. On the other hand, supposing they thought, well, now we need some food. Okay, so maybe is anybody here a fisherman? So maybe the fisherman then would become the leader in that situation. Or they might want to plant something. Oh, somebody's got some farming experience and becomes a leader. So this is the idea that depending upon the situation, the person who has the most knowledge or experience or expertise then becomes the leader. And again, going back to Xenophon, this is very important then, the importance of knowledge or being qualified. Xenophon said there's a small risk that leaders will be regarded with contempt by those they lead if whatever they ask of others, they show themselves best able to perform. So it's very important then as a leader to be able to have the knowledge. And if you're a leader and that position of authority but you don't have much knowledge, what will you most likely do?
Mess everything up.
Yeah, because you don't know what decisions to make. You're not knowledgeable enough. Yeah, so you very easily make mistakes, poor decision making. So supposing the person who supposing you got the shipwrecked, and the person who said, well, actually, because I'm the captain of the ship, then I'm going to supervise the building of the house, may not work. Oh, I'm the captain of the ship. Yes?
There's a great film called The Admirable Crichton.
Yeah, okay.
It's about a butler who's on a shipwreck. It's a British film from the 50s. He's on a shipwreck with a bunch of high society people. He's the only one with any practical skills. So on the desert island, he becomes like the boss of the whole clan.
Right. So that's the idea. And so, it's very important to be knowledgeable. If you're going to be in charge of a bank, like the co-op, it helps if you know something about banking. So, when people get appointed to a particular job or position and they don't have the knowledge necessary to be able to understand what's going on and that basis make the right decisions, they shouldn't be there. things go really seriously wrong. So, this is what Samuel Moon says. Perhaps you have lots of enthusiasm and your members are inspired to work very hard, but if they get very little result, because you don't know how to organize things, they will stop working. You have to be smart as well as enthusiastic. So again, that's part of the limitation of the qualities approach. It's not enough just to have all these qualities. One important thing is one has to have knowledge, one has to have the right qualification. And so, what kinds of authority are there? Well, it's basically, John Adair divides it into three kinds of authority. Authority of position. So this may be, you might have the job, the title, or you may be appointed to this particular job, and so you rely upon your position. Oh well, I'm captain, or I'm in charge, or I'm the leader, because I was appointed to this position. Therefore, you have to, do as you're told and do what I tell you to do. There's also the authority of the personality. So there's some people, they have this sort of natural quality to be able to influence people. In that sense, there are some people who have these kind of qualities, and in a situation, people naturally follow them. This is a sort of authority which comes from personality. And also there's the authority from knowledge, maybe technical or professional. If you need to have a computer fixed, you won't necessarily go to the person who's the most enthusiastic about trying to do it. You'll try and find someone who's a geek, someone who knows about this sort of thing. Yes. And so there's different kinds of authority. There's authority which comes from, oh, well, he's the person in charge, he's appointed to that job. Or you may feel, the particular person has this kind of character and personality that you feel, you want to follow this person. Or maybe the authority that comes from knowledge. And ideally, all these three should be combined. So some of the drawbacks to the approach of situation: sometimes a person with all the knowledge, a PhD, etc., may not be very good at leading. They may lack relational skills. They may have a PhD and know everything in their head, but they may not be very good at communicating to others or inspiring others. Yeah, so it's another kind of, drawback to this approach. They also may not be a good manager. If you're going to lead, you also have to be very capable at managing things. Yeah. And so leadership is also defined by organizational structures, and so it can't pass it around as the situation changes. So, you may have maybe a group of people and you can't think, right, in this situation you're going to be the leader. Okay, now the situation changed, now you're going to be the leader. It doesn't work like that. So again, although the situational approach has something to offer, it stresses the importance of knowledge and qualifications. It again, by itself, is not an adequate theory of leadership. So let's have a look at the functional approach. So this is the idea here that grows out of sort of the approach of social psychology. There are three variables with leadership. There's the leader, and there's the situation in which they find themselves, and there's a group. Okay, so these are the three variables: the leader, the situation, and the group. So these three things can change. So you may have the same group in the same situation, but with a different leader. It may be able to solve the problem and be successful, or maybe unsuccessful. Or you may have the same leader with a different group of people. Sometimes there's one leader with one particular group, it works really well. But you can take this person with another group of people, and he may try and do exactly the same thing, but this time it doesn't work. Why is that? Because the group is different. The people on the group are different. He needs to adjust his own leadership style to the group. And then the group itself takes on a life of its own, a personality of its own. And so a group then is more than just the sum of its parts. So we'll have a look at the team approach. Why do we need teams in the first place? Well, no, let's have a look at the team approach. All teams then have three universal needs. So we need to achieve a common task. So why do you have teams? Why are there teams? To support the leader.
Some tasks require more than one person.
That's right. Some things you can do by yourself, but there's some things you can't do by yourself. If you want to, walk up Mount Snowdon, can you do that by yourself? You can, can't you? Can you climb Mount Everest by yourself? No, it's not possible. You need to have a team. Yeah, so some things, in life, which you cannot accomplish by yourself, but you realize it's something you want to accomplish, and you have to get a team together to be able to do it. So a team then needs a common task. If there isn't a common task, then what are we doing here? Why are we here? Why are we together? Why do we all go off and do different things that we're interested in? So people are drawn together into a team or form together into a team because they have a common task, something to do, something to achieve. Yeah, whether it's at work or football or whatever else it is. So teams then have a need to achieve a common task. And also, the team needs to be held together or maintained as a working group. So it's like you have group cohesiveness. So you work together, you function together as a team. So you can see this on the football pitch. Sometimes you can see a team, it really flows together because they're all in harmony with each other, and the ball's past the ball, it always goes to the right place, and etc., etc. Another team, you can see they're not actually working as a team, and the ball never gets past the right place, and always something happens too far or too short, or they're not able to read each other's minds in that sense. They're not functioning, flowing as a team. So it's very important then for a team to be held together. And then also every team has made up of individuals, and all these individuals have their own needs, which also need to be taken care of and looked after. So let's have a look at these. So the first is a common task. So as Peter said, sometimes there are things you cannot do as an individual, such as climbing Mount Everest. You need to put together a team in order to be able to do that. And then either the team gets to the top or it doesn't. So if you get to the top of Mount Everest as a team, or anyway, not the whole team gets there, but a couple of people get to the very top, supported by the team, how does everybody feel afterwards? Incredibly elated, incredibly happy, incredibly joyful, yes? If on the other hand you don't make it, then how do people feel? Yeah, depressed, deflated. And so that becomes a challenge, yes? The same with playing football. You may be playing football and the whole outcome can be decided in the last 5 seconds of the game. If your team in the last 5 seconds of the game, your team wins, how do you feel about the outcome of the game? Ecstatic, incredible joy, whoa, shouting and screaming. If in the last 5 seconds the other team wins, how do you feel? Disaster. Yeah, and you've been playing for 90 minutes, but the outcome of how you feel about the whole game can be decided by what happened in the last couple of seconds. Yeah, and if you're successful, it's great. You feel good for the next game, and if you lose, then you can feel deflated. And then what's necessary? If things don't work out, people can feel, oh, that didn't work, and that people can just drift away and give up. Yeah? So what's necessary is to try and, hold it together. Okay, so so every team then goes through these challenges. Should we disband or reform, or, what should we do? Okay, so team maintenance then, or group cohesion is very important. And so it's very important then for there to be good morale. And so again, when the team has good morale, then it makes a difference. And this makes a difference in the army. There may be, one very large army fighting against a very small army, but it's not unusual for the smaller army to win if they have a much stronger morale and much higher morale. You can see that when the Spartans defeated the Persians at Marathon, wasn't it? Or Thermopylae, or was it both? Marathon?
They held them off at Thermopylae.
All right, okay. All right, thank you. And so, you have a very small group. If they have a very, good morale, then they can do amazing things. And another important thing then is this idea of a team spirit, And again, as I said, it's very important for all the members of the team to trust each other and to cooperate with each other, to work together and to enjoy working together. And also it's very nice, if on a team you can actually make friends. Yes? It's not just fulfilling the task, but actually if you can build friendships with the people you're working with, it makes the work a lot more enjoyable when you're actually enjoying being with the people that you're working with and you feel these are friends and you can, then years later you meet up and you talk about all the ridiculous things you did together and tell stories, etc., etc. And but again, so from time to time, teams get threatened internally. There may be somebody who is disaffected. What do you do in that situation? There may be a person who just goes around being critical all the time, dragging things down. What do you do in that situation? How do you deal with that kind of person or that kind of situation? Sometimes maybe threaten externally. Sometimes somebody might want to come and break it up. What do you do? Do you allow the team to get broken up? Or do you stick together loyally and, persevere and, bring some success out of this? And so that's why it's important to do team building exercises, to create this kind of team spirit. But also everybody then also brings individual needs. So, everybody is a human being. We all have needs. So this is Abraham Maslow, the psychologist, who drew up this sort of chart. And so the most basic needs we have are physiological. We need to be able to eat. We need food, water, shelter, warmth. If we don't have these very basic physiological needs, there's no point in thinking about scoring goals or changing the world if you're starving. So this is the first need that needs to be fulfilled. So if you're leading a team, you have to think about these things and think, right, I have to make sure that everybody in my team, their physical health is taken care of, that they're well fed and watered, and if they got a toothache, you say, okay, you better go and see the dentist. Looking after people's physical needs. And that's why good companies, they make sure that the employees have a health plan, all these sorts of things, to try to take care of this aspect. And then people's physiological needs are taken care of. Then the next thing that people are concerned about is security, safety, stability, feeling, that you don't need to worry that somebody's going to attack you or mug you or rob you. So again, it's very important then if one's a leader, to make sure that everybody feels safe, feels secure, and that kind of need. And when that is fulfilled, then our next level of concern, Maslow said, is we want to have a sense of belonging. We all feel we want to belong somewhere. There's desire for the interpersonal relationships of love. That's why friendship's very important, families, sense of family is very important, husbands, wives, children. All these things are very, very important for our well-being. So people aren't satisfied just with having food to eat and these physiological needs being fulfilled. After these things are fulfilled, then people think, well, what shall I do now? Now that I've had lunch, what shall I do? But if you're starving, it's hard to concentrate on anything else. Or if you're incredibly thirsty, it's hard to. But once you've satisfied your thirst and your hunger, think, well, what shall I do now? Well, I want to make sure I'm safe. Okay, that's done now. I'm safe. What shall I do with the rest of my life? Well, then think about friendship and human relationships, marriage, family, all these things, very important. Okay, I'm married, I've got a family, I've got lots of friends. Okay, what else do I want to do with my life? Yes? Now we think about, well, I want to, achieve something with my life. I want to develop my potential. I want to, master something. I want to gain recognition, respect. And so people then often pursue a career, gain some qualifications, want to become a master at something, whether it's a carpenter or maths or teaching or medicine or something. And through this, they think, I'm really good at this. And that helps to develop people's sense of self-esteem. I can do this. I can make a difference in the world in which I'm living. And then through that, we can be recognized for our achievements, and also we win the respect of people around us. It's natural for our family, our husbands, wives, children, to love us. But, to win the respect of people outside that kind of circle is, again, more difficult in some ways, but also, good. But then, having received that kind of recognition, respect, and also we want to pursue this, Maslow said, this idea of self-actualization, fulfilling our potential, feeling that we look back, we've fulfilled our potential, we've been able to live a meaningful life and a purposeful life. So when you die, or before you die preferably, you look back on your life and think, yes, I have no regrets. I've been able to live a life worth living, and I've been able to live a creative life. I've created all these things. I've been able to express myself through the work I've been doing, this kind of life, a very fulfilled kind of life. So again, every individual then has these kind of needs and desires. And so all the people on a team, so a team then has these three areas of need. A team needs a task, something to fulfill, something to aim for, something to accomplish, some targets. Also, a team needs to enjoy working together, enjoy being together, that kind of atmosphere. And also, teams made up of individuals who also have their needs and also have to have these kind of needs fulfilled. So let's see how this works. What happens if we ignore some of these? So, for example, supposing you're on a team and you enjoy being together and looking after each other, but you forget about the task. What happens after a while?
You have no direction.
You've got no direction, and
You feel failed.
you feel it's meaningless, you feel, what are we doing here? Why do we come here every day? Why are we together? We might enjoy each other's company, but there's no sense of achievement. Yeah, so in that sense, our team being together as a group has no meaning. So it's very important then to be focused upon the task and not forget the task for which a team is together. But if on the other hand, you have a leader who over-focuses on the task, over-focuses upon the targets, is driving people really hard, what happens then?
People burn out.
Yeah, people get burnt out. Yeah, people just feel, it's not fun anymore. Yeah, I don't enjoy this anymore. And if people feel, well, I'm feeling sick today, but even though I'm sick and ill, I'm still being told I should go out and do this. Yeah, that person, leader, he doesn't care about my own well-being. All he cares about is the bottom line. And then people feel exploited and taken advantage of. So if you over-focus on the task. Okay, so again, supposing, you ignore the team's leads, what happens? Everybody's got their own individual target and has been pushed and encouraged to fulfill their own individual target and been taken care of as an individual, but there's no focus upon developing the team. What happens then?
A loss of productivity.
So no communication, yeah? And if there's no communication?
No cohesiveness.
No cohesiveness. And if you're not actually working together as a team, after a while one just runs out of steam.
No productivity.
Yeah, and the productivity goes down. So even though you may be focusing on the task as individuals, actually the overall result isn't as good as it could be because you don't get that kind of synergy and encouragement when you're working together with others, encouraging each other, yeah, and competing with each other. What were you going to say, Chris?
Yeah, or like reduced productivity.
Yeah. So the end result actually goes down. So what about over-focusing upon the team? Everybody enjoys being together, having fun together. And here, again, don't focus on the task. But also sometimes they may say, well, it's very important for the sake of team unity. You may have a doctor's appointment, but actually for the sake of the team, it's really important you should be here. You should sacrifice yourself for the sake of the team. How does that work? No, because then the individual needs are not taken care of, and then you get a team full of people who are not happy because the individual needs aren't taken care of. So again, things don't work out. And if you ignore individual needs and people aren't being taken care of, again, people lose interest. So you think about some of the individual needs that people have. If you're joining a company, you might think, well, okay, am I going to be able to develop my career in this company? Is my manager or leader, are they interested in sending me on to training courses so that I can get promoted? Yeah. Oh, well, or you maybe feel, okay, I've been working in this business or this institution for lots of years. Nobody really, appreciates me. Nobody's helping me to develop my abilities. Nobody's helping me to do this or that or the other. And after a while, what happens? What happens if you're a company, you don't take care of the individual needs of the people who are your employees? They leave. The best ones leave. They think, right, I'm not getting anywhere in this company. I've been in this job for the last 5 years and nobody's talked to me about my career prospects or getting promoted or getting further training so I can do more and more. I'm not able to fulfill my potential in this particular company. And so, after a while, the best people leave. So if there's a business where the best people leave because they're not able to fulfill their potential, what happens to the business? Eventually it just gets worse and it crashes. Yeah? Whereas if you over-focus on the individual needs, what happens? So this is a bit like trade unionists who say, well, all we're interested in is getting paid lots and lots. Okay, what happens eventually to the business? It also collapses because the focus there just upon the individual needs, not focusing upon the task and accomplishing the task, not working together, but each individual getting together, selfishly wanting as much pay as they can and giving as little as they can. So again, this is one of the problems of British industry in the past. So, when you think about an ideal, in God's ideal, there cannot be any individual purpose which does not support the whole purpose, nor can there be any whole purpose that doesn't guarantee the interest of the individual. So the whole and the individual should go together. So if you look at well-run, successful companies, you find that's the way it is. They have very clear tasks, what they want to accomplish. They attract good, qualified individuals, and they take care of the people who are working in the company, and they pay them well. They also, help them to develop their career and their potential, but also they make sure that there's a good team atmosphere, good team spirit, that people are working together harmoniously and encouraging each other. Now you find it's a successful company. People want to work in that kind of society, in that kind of company, that kind of business. People actually enjoy going to work. They enjoy working hard. They enjoy, fulfilling the targets. They are happy when the company does well and makes loads of money because they actually share in the success of the company. If the company does well, they also share in that success. So they don't feel like they're being exploited. They feel as though they're being taken care of, and they become very loyal to the company, very loyal to the people they're working with, and they become friends with each other. And so because the individuals feel well taken care of, there's a good team spirit, and they enjoy working hard, then actually it becomes a successful company. Makes sense? But if you don't get any of these areas, of need fulfilled, then things will go wrong, and the group will break up, or the company will go out of business, or whatever else. So what a leader has to do then, has to be focusing upon these 3 areas. So if you're a leader, you have to be thinking, right, we have what is our task? How can we achieve the task? Because if the team fulfills and achieves a task, the team's morale goes right up. So it's very important then to have a clear focus upon the task and how to fulfill the task, which means the team leader then also has to be very knowledgeable and has to be a very good manager. Yes, because if you want to fulfill a task, there's lots of steps to get there. Yeah, which means you have to be very well organized. You may be a very nice person, and you may be really enthusiastic, but you're not well organized. What happens? It's a disaster. I mean, what?
Not good enough results.
You don't get good results, and you just don't like it. You think, I like this person, it's such a nice person, but it's so badly organized and such a dreadful manager that we can't achieve the task. And then work just becomes one big frustration. And you think, this isn't fun, I'm not enjoying this. We're not actually able to achieve the task because the leader's not well enough organized. He's a nice person, but he doesn't have the necessary things. So it's important then for a leader to be focused on the task, but also the leader has to think about the team, making sure people are getting on well. If you can see there's some people in the team who are in conflict with each other, trying to help resolve those kind of conflicts, trying to build up the team morale and spirit through doing different things together, and making sure that on the team everybody has a part to play. Yeah? So the team is not just the leader and the team. There are lots of tasks and functions that need to be fulfilled in the team, and it's important for the leader then to make sure that everyone has a clear task and purpose and is able to work together as a team. And also, the team leader then, a leader has to be concerned about the well-being of the individuals on the team, giving them tasks which are going to challenge them, things which aren't too easy, such that they get bored, are not too difficult, so they can't do them and end up failing, and which again is very bad for oneself. But a leader has to know the individuals on his team and think, right, I'm going to give this person this task because I know it's going to stretch them, but also I know they can actually achieve it. Yes? And then you have to take care of people in this kind of way. That's why you need these kind of leaders to do these kind of things. And as John Adair said earlier, until you can do this essential work, your appointment as a leader will not be ratified in the hearts and minds of the team. Yes, you have to be able to do all these three areas. And then when you can do this, then you get a very successful team which scores lots of goals, earns lots of money, builds lots of buildings of good quality quickly. All these sorts of tasks are fulfilled and good results. Yes, but if any one of these three areas has been neglected, then the results always go down. That makes sense? People may be working in a factory, if they're not committed to it, they may think, I can't be bothered. Yes, and they don't produce things as good quality as they could. And if you've got a factory which is producing things which are not good quality, that's not good for the business. So people then have to care enough to be able to, of their own responsibility, think, I want to do my best. So as I said, leaders have to inspire people to give their best and to, do the extraordinary. So, this idea of accountability and responsibility, leaders can't do everything, but they are accountable for everything. Okay? So if there's a task to be achieved, the leader can't do everything, otherwise, if the leader could do everything, he wouldn't need a team. The leader can't do everything, but if something goes wrong, the person who's held to accountable is the leader. Because, the leader has, in order to fulfill a certain task, there's certain things that need to be done. So the leader has to organize things to make sure that all those different areas are covered, that somebody is doing these things, has to delegate things and also supervise things so that every area is being covered so the task can be accomplished. He can't do it all himself, but he has to make sure that somebody is covering all these different points and make sure they're all working together. And again, this is something Mooney said, it's good if you have a sense of responsibility yourself, but it will not accomplish everything until all your members also have that same sense of responsibility. Your problem is how to transfer your standard to them. You have to study this process all the time. So again, that's what the traditional idea of apprenticeship is. You have a master who knows how to do everything, and an apprentice knows how to do nothing. And gradually, over a period of time, the master teaches the apprentice how to be able to do everything himself and how to become a master himself. So part of leading is not thinking, I want to be the one in charge, but actually thinking, how can I help these people to develop their own sense of responsibility, so actually become motivated, self-motivated. So if I fell under a bus tomorrow, things would just carry on. So a good leader is dispensable. He's been able to raise up people. So if he didn't turn up one day or he fell ill, everything would just carry on. Yeah, because people are responsible. People would fill in for his absence. People thinking, we're doing this because this is what we want to do. Yeah, that sense of responsibility and that sense of ownership. People then own it. They feel this company is my company. I'm not just an employee. But actually, this is my company. I take pride in my work. I take pride in what I'm doing. I have a sense of responsibility. And so for leaders, good leaders, then they're able to transmit this sense of responsibility to others, so others also feel this is not just the leader's task, or they're only doing because the leader says, but actually they feel this is my task, this is what I want to accomplish, this is what I want to do. And then when people feel that way, when it turns out successfully, then they feel an incredible sense of accomplishment. So it's not easy then being a leader, but these are the different sort of things that are necessary. So what we're going to do next week then, we're going to look at these functions in more detail, the kind of functions of leadership. There are many different functions, and so we're going to break them down next week and look at them in much more detail. So I forgot to tell everybody, to encourage people to ask questions. That's why I think we finished so early. And to come up with comments. Anyway, was that interesting?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like a framework in which one can see oneself. And so, I found this useful because I could say, okay, I can understand, it helps you to get your head around what's going on wherever you're working, whatever you're doing. And then if you understand the functions of leadership, you can see my leader's good at doing this and this and this, but actually not really very good at doing that and that and that, then maybe I can fill in on those kind of areas. Yeah. So as I said, it's not just about the leader, it's also about colleagues and subordinates. That if you understand the way things are working, instead of thinking, oh, my leader, he can't do this and this and this, that's hopeless, thinking, well, actually, okay, he's not very good at this, but I'm good at this. So I'm going to go and support in this area because I can see this area, he needs support, and you fill in for the leader's gaps because no leader is good at everything. Actually, it's dreadful having a leader who's good at everything because you feel, well, what can I do?
What about a political leader, today's political leader, who are voted more for their ability to convince people, policy than their leadership skills?
Well, that's what the Cabinet Secretary said to Tony Blair. He said, you never led anything in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Tony Blair said, well, I led the Labour Party. And he said, exactly. He never actually managed or run anything himself. So that's a problem when you have politicians who haven't had any real-world experience outside the realm of politics. Sorry? Yes, I know, but certain things you should learn before you get the job.
But it's not possible to do that.
Well, it was, if you'd had... So there was a criticism of Tony Blair, this idea of sofa politics. Notes weren't being taken properly, etc., etc., etc. And that led to all kinds of problems with the Labour government because of Tony Blair's leadership style. He was a sort of charismatic person who stood up there and gave all these charismatic speeches, but he wasn't good at managing things or organising things.
So because you do have to have a talent to do it.
Sorry?
You do have to have a talent to be a leader.
Well, you have to, but also lots of things you can actually learn. So there's, as I said, there's the qualities approach is the idea that, well, you're born to be a leader, but if the functional approach, actually lots of functions, and you can actually learn how to do these, fulfill these functions. And so I actually learn how to be a leader. It's not just the charisma. And there are politicians who've, had a lot of experience in business, actually setting up their own businesses, and very successful ones at that. And when they get into government, they're much more effective because they know how to manage things. Whereas the people who've just been involved in politics, they just go around to all these meetings where they argue, etc., etc. And they don't have that kind of management experience which is necessary to be in the cabinet or to be a prime minister.
Yeah, but then you may get those people very good at probably managing the organisation, but not effective enough in convincing the population who needs to be convinced.
Right, so you need to be good at various things, yes. But there have been politicians, there are politicians who are not very good public speakers, but they're very effective ministers of their departments. At the end of the day, that's what counts. In America, for example, they have this long drawn-out presidential campaign, which goes on for years. But it's a huge campaign, and in that sense, it's testing the leadership skills of the candidate, because they have to attract support, they have to manage this big financial campaign, they have to attract to them people who are capable, and so you can tell by looking at this person as they're going around on the campaign trail for a couple of years, do they have the ability and qualities necessary to be the President of the United States? So that's like a sort of testing ground that they go through. And lots of people put their names forward, and some people get the backing and some people don't. And generally speaking, not always, but I would say generally speaking, the best candidate wins. And it's the same. To become Prime Minister, you have to be able to persuade all the members of your party that you're the best person to lead the party. And people will look at your qualities, and they'll evaluate you based upon their experience of you, and then somebody gets elected.
Isn't part of the process of education part of getting somebody to become a better leader?
Sorry?
Isn't part of the education getting somebody to become a better leader, to become a leader?
Well, that's right. And so some schools are very good at this and others aren't. Some schools just focus upon the academic side.
Depends on the school.
It very much depends upon the school.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, if a school just focuses upon the academic side, you may get all the A's and academic qualifications, but you don't have the leadership skills because you haven't had the experience. If we go to a school where there's a lot of sport, for example, then in football teams, rugby teams, cricket, hockey, whatever, there you learn how to work in a team because you're a member of a team. And so you learn about team and group dynamics as a member of a sports team. And then you may become the captain of your football team at school, and you learn about, well, actually being a captain is different from just being an ordinary player, because you have to make other kinds of decisions, yes? And so you learn, as a child, you can learn lots of these things if you find yourself in a school where you can learn these things, or an environment where you can learn these things. If you're just sitting in front of a flat screen playing computer games all day, you're not going to learn any of this. And so, yes, there are a lot of these things, I said, can be learned. One can learn to become a good leader if one is given that kind of opportunity to learn from others, to have, chance to make mistakes and to be, help someone to mentor you and show you, how not to make those kind of mistakes. So good schools do that, yeah. Yes.
As we grow up, on average, as a child,
Mm.
we kind of are taught the importance of obedience,
Yeah.
on average,
Mm.
and we relate to parents as authority,
Mm.
on average.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, what do you think how do you think that impacts our relationship to the leader in our life later on?
It can not, it can be bad. It depends. If you have a society which emphasizes the value and importance of leadership as the most important quality or value, then it's very easy for people to just obey a leader. And a dictator comes along and everybody just does as they're told. They're just very obedient. It creates that. It has a tendency to create that kind of society. They become very rebellious. And in that case, it becomes very difficult to work together with people in authority. So obedience, what does it mean in Italian?
Obbedienza.
Okay, what does that mean? What is the root of that word? It's made up of more than one word, isn't it? Okay, what's the root of it? What's the word again?
Obligation, is it close to obligation?
So it's obbedire.
Okay, obbedire.
Ob is related.
You're Italian, aren't you? Yeah, obbedire. Okay, all right. Okay. Dear. What's dear?
Dear.
Yes, D-I-R-E. What does that mean?
Tell.
Tell. Okay.
Say, tell.
Sorry.
To say, to tell.
To tell. Okay. And
Pull out. Something like
pull out. Okay. All right. Anyway,
that. I'm not very sure though.
it's right. As far as I remember, it's a long time since I read about these things. But it's connected. What's the Latin for listen?
Auscultare.
No, Latin, not Italian. I can't remember now.
Odire.
That's right. Dire or dire. Okay, so obedience then, it comes from that word, that Latin word. So it's to do with listening. Okay? And so what should one listen to above all else? So when you're listening to someone, what should you be doing? You listen and you think about what it is they're saying, and then you make a decision about what they're saying is right or wrong. So the most important thing to listen to and to obey is actually one's conscience. So again, conscience means, there's two words, with knowledge, so acting out of knowledge based upon truth. So that's the original meaning of the word obedience, is to listen. So it means you should listen, but it doesn't mean you should do what someone tells you to do. It means just you should listen. And then you have to act based upon understanding. Yeah.
Well, we don't tell so to children.
That's right. That's right. Well, exactly. So people use that word to control and manipulate others, and that's wrong. So in Hebrew, the word for obedience does not exist, which is interesting. And if you look at the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, the word obey and obedience are not there. They're there in English, but the original Hebrew word doesn't mean obey or obedience. It just means listen.
Technically, you've just said that in Latin the word for obey doesn't exist either, because it actually means the same as the Hebrew word.
Well, it does, but people, the point is, she's saying, people have forgotten what the meaning is.
Right.
So the meaning's become obscured.
Yeah, changed.
It's changed. The word is there, but the meaning has changed. Whereas in the Hebrew, the meaning hasn't changed. It just is lishmoa. It just means listen. Listen, think, understand, and then act based upon your understanding, which means you're being responsible for what you do. You can't say, oh, I was just following orders. If you're following orders, that's being irresponsible, because it means you're just doing as you're told. You're not saying, well, I'm doing this because I think it's the right thing to do. I'm just doing this because I'm following orders.
But there are situations in the army or with small children where, or even with adults, where there's just no time to think about it. If there's an emergency happening and somebody says, get out, get out.
Right.
There are some situations where,
Yes, I'm not...
where there isn't time, or even people don't even have the capacity to understand the meaning.
Well, okay, I would just say that's the minority. It's not very often you have to run out of a cinema because there's a fire.
Right.
So, I mean, that occasionally that is the case, but generally speaking, it's not. So, for example, when when parents are bringing up their children, you might say to your children, well, you should do this. And they may say, why? And they say, because I said so. Okay. In other words, because I'm the parent, you have to do as I tell you to do. You have to follow and obey my orders. Actually, that's not good parenting. Good parenting, you explain why. Don't stick your finger in the electric socket because you're going to get killed. Don't put your hand on the oven door because you'll get burned. Don't run across the road because you get run over. Yes? So good parents, you explain to children and explain that this is the way the world works. Yeah? So you're educating them to understand the way the world works. And then if they understand the way the world works, then they can make decisions by themselves. Yes? Because they understand. And so the idea of good parents, you bring your children up so they don't need you anymore. Yes? Because they can become responsible. They can make all the decisions themselves because they understand. And you know then that they'll just follow their conscience and they'll do the right thing because they understand what to do. Whereas if it's just, oh, do as you're told because I say so, then the person's always wondering, well, who's going to tell me what to do next? But they don't have the ability then to make their own informed decisions because they don't have the information, the knowledge and understanding to be able to do so.
I find it very interesting what you said about Hebrew, if you take into account how successful on average Hebrew people are.
Yes. And I think this is a large part of the reason. They're incredibly disobedient, Jews. And that's one of the reasons they were so unpopular through history, because they were told what to do and they always said why. And they would always question and they'd always challenge authority. There's an expression, 4 Jews, 5 opinions. So they're very opinionated. And yes, that's one of the reasons why they're so successful, because they're always encouraged to ask why, not, oh, do as you're told because I say so. That doesn't work in the Hebrew Jewish way of bringing up children. And so, yes, obedience then is very often misused. This whole idea, the whole concept is misused to control and manipulate people. And so this word didn't exist in Hebrew until 1948. And then in 1948, Israel came into existence, and he had an army. And because he had an army, then obviously you needed an army where soldiers didn't just go around questioning orders all the time, because it wouldn't work very well. So they actually had to invent a word, which meant that they could function as an army, the army could function. But within Jewish society, the word it's not the word. So yeah, it's one of the reasons why it's so successful. Yes?
How does the
Sorry?
How does the dictators to control and manipulate people?
How do dictators do it?
Yeah.
Well, there are lots of people. Well, one reason is there are lots of people who like to be told what to do. There are lots of people who think, why can't someone make this decision for me? Why can't someone sort out all the problems? And that's why. Dictators come to power at the end of the day because people want to have a dictator. They want someone to tell them what to do. Sorry?
They were very, very smart. And the people that were...
Yeah. Well, yeah, sometimes, often the dictator is very charismatic. He, will appeal to certain kinds of emotions and everything. And it will also, look like he gets things done, because he, organizes things well. But at the end of the day, dictators come along because people want to be dictated to. And, you look, different countries have a tendency to dictatorship more than others. Certain cultural, religious, social kind of factors which make it easier for some countries to become dictatorships than other countries. And a lot of these values are ones that values in the family, the relationship between parents and children, and etc.
Make a break there.
Yep.
Would you like to tell us what we'll be looking at next week?
Yeah, so we'll be looking at these functions of leadership in more detail. So this is like a sort of overview, and so we'll look at the different functions that leaders need to do, and more detail, and decision making, things like that.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Well, thanks for coming.